Okay, everybody, this is Chapter 2, Section 9. This is dealing with percentages, and we're kind of using ratios and proportions again. So hopefully you remember that with a ratio, it's a fraction, and I'm going to set it equal to another fraction, and I use my cross product, so that means I diagonally multiply. We're looking at percentages too. You know, percentages are a big thing that we use kind of in everyday life and lots of different things. And it's just a percent is part of something or part of a whole thing. And a really good analogy is using a dollar bill. You know, 10 cents is 1/10 of a dollar or 10% of a dollar. A quarter is 1/4 of a dollar or 25% of a dollar. So and we can then relate that to a lot of different things that we kind of do throughout our daily lives, basically. Okay, so if you can go ahead and write down this percent proportion here. Okay, we use this little formula to be able to plug stuff in certain places that we're going to need to do. And this is just a really easy thing to remember, a really easy thing to use, so we're kind of just going to stick with that. There's another kind of thing that is related to this. It means the same thing, just different wording. But this is more, this one on the left is more of what we really want to try to remember. But, you know, this one on the right is just kind of a different, some people might feel it's a little bit easier to make a connection with where I put things in this formula to be able to find a missing piece. This 100, like, you know, it's a dollar bill basically, that's always there in my formula. These three other pieces, though, are ones that I'm going to be either given or I got to find. Okay, so I'm always going to be able to figure out two of the pieces. It's the third piece that's missing that is what I have to find. So it's me being able to read a problem and stick it in the right place. Okay, so if you could write, I would probably just stick with this one on the left and write that down. And you really got to memorize it. Okay. You have to know what it says to be able to understand where I'm going to actually put things to be able to find the answer I'm looking for. Okay, but the one on the right is saying it the same exact thing, just a little bit different way. Okay, this percent equation here down at the bottom or underneath it, okay, is another kind of way or to do the same problem. It's just this one seems to give kids a little bit of issue. I would write it down. It's the same thing. You use a percentage. You know, if you read your problem, if you're given the percentage, you can put it in. The A is part of something, like a quarter is part of a dollar, and the B is your whole thing for the dollar. So that will get you those missing pieces too, using that formula. But that one seems to give issues to certain kids doing this. So we're just really going to stick doing this. Okay. One more down here at the bottom is another good one for us to be able to have is simple interest. Interest is a couple different things. Interest is like if you have money and you put it in a bank, a savings account. The bank uses your money to be able to lend it to other people, and then they charge them interest on like a loan. And so for you being able to put the money in the bank says thank you very much, and we're going to give you a little bit to say thanks, so you make some money on it. Or it could be the loan that people go to the bank for to take out. Like a lot of us probably are looking to buy a car at some point, and we might not have enough money to buy a car, so we're going to go ahead and go to the bank and get a loan. Well, the bank's not going to give you the money for free. Okay? They're going to charge you interest on your loan, and you have a certain amount of time to pay it back. And over that period of time, you're paying interest on the money that you borrow. Okay, so a couple things. If you could write the formula down, and then also let's make sure we define each one of the pieces of this formula. Okay, so if you could write this stuff down too. And once again, too, I'm going to start going a little bit quicker now. Make sure that, you know, if you're getting a little bit behind on your notes, hit pause, right, get caught up to where we're at, and then go ahead and hit play again and continue on, okay? But I stands for the interest. That's how much I would get or have to pay if I had a loan, or I get if I put it in the savings. R is the interest rate, and that's always written as a decimal. P is principal. That's the starting amount. So like if I went to the bank and I said, here's $1,000. I want to put it in a savings account so I can make some interest. That's what I start with. Or if you go to the bank and say, I'm buying this car, I need $10,000 to buy this car, that would be your principal amount of the loan. T is the amount of time. So like if I went to the bank and I put it in a savings account, I left it in there for, you know, you guys maybe got something when you were born or when you were young, and now you're going to maybe go to college in a couple of years. You know, I put the money in the bank for 18 years or 16 years. That's the time I put in. Or if I got a loan, the bank says, you know, you got 3 years to pay it back or 5 years to pay it back. So time is how long that money is in there or you have to pay it back. Okay. All right, here we go. Just really quick, I'm not going to do all of these. This is a kind of a little table of how to convert percentages into decimals. It's pretty important that you know how to do this. I'm not going to do 1%, okay, but I'll do 5%. So if you could write down 5%. To change it to a decimal, this 5% really has a decimal right here. We just don't write it. But to change it to a decimal, I move this point twice to the left. Okay, so that becomes now 0.05. And the percentage sign goes away because I've changed it into a different kind of number, all right? So we want to move left 2 places to change a percent into a decimal, okay? Now, once again, to change a decimal into a fraction, remember, percentage is always based on 100, so I'm going to put the decimal over, or the percent over 100, and I want to reduce it as much as I can, so I know that 5 goes into 100, and 5 goes into itself, so 5 goes into itself once, and it goes into 100 20 times. So I'm going to change that percent into a decimal. I could change it then into a fraction, and we're good to go. Okay. I kind of did, if you could write down 25%, I kind of did that before. I moved the decimal place over 2 places. Okay. And then if I change it to a fraction, put it over 100. And then if I can reduce it, I want to, so that reduces down to 1/4. Okay. These other ones are just kind of, you know, I think you could probably do those with it. I don't like to really work with these guys with you because, you know, we really don't get those kind of percents all the time. And because they're repeating decimals, some kids kind of get a little bit anxious about them, so we won't worry about those. The 50%, I'm going to move the decimal over twice. I'm going to put it over 100 to change it to a fraction. And if I can reduce it, I will. And there you go. Okay. So really, it's a process that you need to use. I did some basic ones for you, but you use that principle, move the decimal place to the left 2 places. And then if you want to make it a fraction, always put it over 100 because that's what percentages are based on. Reduce the fraction. And just point now, I'll go back up to this one too. You know, when I moved it over 2 places, I had an empty place right here, okay? If I get an empty place when I move the decimal, I need to fill it in with that 0. So that's where that came from. I had an empty spot. So please make sure it's always 2 places. If you have an empty spot, fill it with 0. Okay, going here, we're going to go ahead and use our little formula that we had. We had the percent over 100 and equals the is number over the of number. Okay, and then what we're going to do is we're going to read the question, figure out what do they want me to find and what pieces did they actually give me. Okay, so if we read this question, it says what percent of 56 is 42? Okay, so read it once again. What percent? That sounds like I need to find it. Of 56, I have a of number. Okay, is 42, I have a is number. Okay, so being able to read it and looking at this formula, it kind of tells me what I have to find, what I have. Once again, I think I had to find percent because it says what percent of 56. So I'm always putting it over 100. I have a is number 42. I have a of number 56. And now I've got a proportion, which we did last section. And now I can go ahead and I could do my cross or diagonally multiply. Remember, the fractions go away when we do this. Get that, okay? So now it's a problem that we've done before. Hopefully it's pretty easy for you guys. I can go ahead now and divide both sides by 56. Okay, and then that's going to be able to give me my value. All right, so those go away. I'm left with x. 4,200 divided by 56 is 75. Okay, all right. The second question here, okay, let me get rid of it. I'll keep that. Circle it in a different color. This one, go ahead and write that down. What percent, again, of 90 is 30? So it's kind of the same question, I think. Still asking for a percent. It gave me a of number, gives me a is number. So I'm going to, once again, and you know what, I'm replacing the percent sign with x. You could leave the percent sign if you want. And remember, I got to go back here. I forgot about that. I found a percentage, so I just need to make sure I label it too. My fault. Okay. We're going to go ahead. It's still over 100. I have an of number and an is number. My is 30 and my of is 90. It's very important too that you make sure you're putting them in the correct place. You need to stick with the order basically here of that fraction. Okay, so once again, now I've got a proportion. I'm just going to go ahead and do my cross products. Multiply here. I get 3,000. I can go ahead then and divide both sides by 90. And I get x equals 33.3, and it repeats. But remember, you're finding a percentage, so throw the percent sign on again. Okay. All right. We're going to come down here. We're just going to do the same formula. It's asking us to use that funky one with a equals percent times b, and we're really going to try to stay away from that. Okay. So once again, reading the question, I've got what percent of 40 is 250. So it's the same kind of question. They want me to get the percent. They give me an is number, and they give me an of number. Okay. So we can go ahead and do our cross products. I get 40x equals 250. And I can go ahead then and divide both sides by 40. I get 6.25. Remember, you're finding a percentage. Percent. Okay? And you need to step back once in a while and kind of, question yourself and look at the percent you got and compare it to the numbers that we started with, okay? What percent of 40 is 2.5%? So I'm looking at how much of 40 is 2.5 as a percent. Well, 2.5 is a pretty small number. 40 is not actually a huge number, but it's much bigger, I think. So it's got to be kind of a small percent. And, you know, 6.25% isn't exactly huge. So I think that's probably right, okay? Some people might ask you to raise it or I'm sorry, not raise it, but round it to a nearest percentage. I might round it to the nearest 1/10 of a percent, so I might have to do that. Or if they might say just a whole percent, I would round it just to 6%. So that too, sometimes we ask you to write your question in a particular format in sense of rounding a number, okay? Okay, really good question here. You'll be able to use this a lot. I'm going to kind of show you a different way to do this. It's a little bit longer, but I think it's a little bit more straightforward. If you could just say a dress shirt costs $38.50, and it's on sale for 30% off. And they're asking what is the sale price. Well, I'm actually going to add another question too. How much is the discount? Because we actually do that like on a test or a quiz, okay? So if you could write that stuff down, I appreciate that. Okay. And since I'm asking you 2 questions, we have to actually do 2 different things. Okay, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the normal price. Okay. Don't like this board. It does stuff like that. It makes me mad. Okay, we're going to go ahead and we're going to take the percent and we're going to change it to a decimal. So move it 2 places to the left. Okay, and I'm going to go ahead and multiply those values. Okay, so just hopefully you got a calculator available and you can multiply that out. You know, and you could do this by hand. That's not really that hard to do on paper either. Okay, when I do that, I get $11.55. Okay, now that's the answer to this question. Okay, that's how much the discount is. But this question says, what is the sale price? So I have to take the regular price and I need to subtract the amount that we found as the discount. Okay, so we're going to do that. And that's going to be the sale price. So obviously, you know, when you guys go shopping and stuff, we have a certain amount of cash that we have to use to buy stuff, and you know, I'm not always going to pay full price for something. Okay, and a shirt that's $38.50, that's a pretty expensive shirt to me. So I'm looking for sale prices and things that are on sale. Okay. Right, and that's stuff you could use at the grocery store, you could use when you're buying other things besides just clothes, okay? All right, here we go. So we're going to go ahead now, and we're going to still use this percent over 100 equals is over of, but now we're going to be given something different. We have to find something different, okay? So we're going to go ahead and read it. 125% of what number is 17.5. Okay. So it seems to me like they gave me a percent. Seems to me like they gave me an is number. So I'm missing of what number? Okay. So I'm missing that. So we're going to go ahead and plug in the things that we have. I have 125%. I have an is number, which is 17.5, and I have an of number, and I'll just call it x. You can put of there, it's not no big deal. Okay, now let me just stop for a second, make sure I explain something, we use some common sense. 125% of what number is 17.5? Well, 125% is more than 100. So the number that they're giving me is probably going to, I think, see if I'm thinking right, is going to be bigger than the number I find. Let's find out, okay? So we're going to go ahead and we're going to multiply here. Multiply here. And then we can go ahead and divide that. And this is going to go away. X, and we already got a percent, so when we find this number, we don't have to put the percentage on top of it, okay? And I got 14. Okay. Now, like I said, they said 125% of what number is 17.5. So that, common sense, I think, I hope, that we understand that the number I'm trying to find is going to be smaller than the number I got, okay? Now, that would be switched. If they gave me an of number and was looking for an is number, then I would be thinking to myself, well, then I need to get a number that's bigger than what they gave me, okay? All right, here we go. Let's go to the next one. 25% of what number is 10? So they gave me a percent. They're giving me a is. I guess I got to find of, okay? So 25 over 100 equals 10 over x. And I'm going to assume that the x is going to be bigger than 10 this time because it's now less, 25% is less than 100. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and multiply here. Multiply here. Okay, and we're going to go ahead and divide that. Those go away. Ran out of room here, sorry. And I get x is 40. Okay. All right. So using this guy right here, this formula, it's just a really important one when we get these ofs and is and percents kind of rounded up in one question. There are a couple other things or ways you could say it, and there's a different kind of formula you could use, but I think this is just a really easy, straightforward way to remember it and being able to use it. Okay. If you go down here to problem number 5, let's write this first. Interest equals the percent times the rate times, or principal times the rate times the time. Okay. And this was in our notes that we took at the very beginning. Okay. You went to the bank and you deposited $840 into a savings account. It earns simple interest at this amount per year, and you want to keep the money in the bank for 4 years. And they want to know how much interest will you get at the end of that time. Okay. So interest is what I'm trying to find. That's what they tell me or ask me right here. Okay, so I'm trying to find this. Remember, P is the principal. That's the amount that, in this case, I'm putting into the bank. We found that was $840. The rate is 4.5%, but I have to change, and I know it's a decimal, but really it's a percent. I've got to change it into a different kind of decimal. That's moving it twice to the left. Okay, so we're going to have to do that. T stands for time, and we're going to decide to put it in there for 4 years. Okay, so let's go ahead and plug stuff in. Interest equals the principal, which was $840. I'm going to put it in parentheses because I'm really multiplying all 3 of these things together. So I want to make sure that I'm kind of separating them. I move the decimal place on the interest rate 2 places to the left, so I get that. Only 1 decimal place now. and my time was 4 years. Okay, so now I can just take all that and just plug it into my calculator and see what we get. So I believe I got $151.20. Okay. So let me just kind of point that out. Remember, that was for 4 years. So let's see how much I make per year. Didn't really ask that, but I'm kind of using this to kind of explain something to you. Okay. When I divide that in, I'm just doing it on the board here. I don't want to use my calculator. Okay, I'm making about $37.80 per year on as interest on the amount that I put in. The amount was 840. So after 4 years, if I add this up, I put in 840. I made $151.20, and I'm going to get this much after 4 years. Okay, so if you didn't need that 840 and it's just sitting around in your drawer somewhere, stick it in the bank, and you weren't going to use it. Stick it in the bank. I made $151.20 in 4 years. I don't think that's a whole lot, and I think that interest rates are less than 4.5%. So I might be making a little bit less. So I'm not making a ton of money, but it made something, and I wasn't going to really use it. Okay. All right. So that's using interest, and you can use that on a loan. Kind of same, you use the same formula, plug in numbers and same thing, but then it just tells you how much you have to pay the bank for letting you use their money. Okay. All right. If you have any questions or anything, make sure you get a hold of me, and we'll see you next time.